Good morning, dear Thai, dear community. Today is Sunday the 30th of December 2018. We're still in 2018. And we're in the Upper Hamlet on our educators' retreat. And many people in the field of education have chosen to spend a week in Plum village, and that is for our joy and happiness. We're here to learn, but in an environment where we are also relaxing and enjoying each other's company, Mother Nature, and enjoying the practice together. So we feel, it's not a bad place to spend New Year's week, a time of renewal and a time of reflecting also on our aspiration. As teachers, we've all of us in the area of education, we have a deep aspiration to offer, to serve, and we really see the privilege of being in a position to influence and support and give something to the younger generation. And then sometimes we get burned out, we get tired, and we say, "Oh, I'm only human." And of course that's true. Yeah. Sometimes we need something bigger than ourselves to feel connected to. Sometimes we think, the Buddha. If we connect with the Buddha, we may feel like, or maybe another inspiring person like Jesus. In the Christmas week, we celebrated the birth of Jesus. Even we're a Buddhist monastery. We may have more humanistic models that we like, maybe Nelson Mandela or Martin Luther King, also Christian, but representing so much of a humanitarian vision. And we want to connect with that in ourselves also, because finally the Buddha was also only human, and yet he seemed to be able to connect with an enormous resource in himself and had so much to offer. Even it's been thousands of years, somehow his life resonates and connects to us. This morning we offered maybe an unusual practice for you. I don't know if it's the first time you did this practice of touching the earth. And there was some concern, it's not secular practice. It's not it's maybe feels too like something religious or something. And the act of going down and connecting with the earth somehow seems devotional to, especially we do in the direction of the altar or something like this. But the true spirit of the practice of touching the earth is not like that. I would say there's two aspects. One is, as was mentioned, this intimate conversation with the Buddha inside us, not necessarily outside us. An intimate conversation, not necessarily with an idea of a historical Buddha, but actually whatever it is in you that represents a wise, compassionate, understanding friend. Someone you can take refuge in. Someone who can listen to you without judgment, without criticism. Someone you can share everything with. Yeah. You can share your suffering and know that they won't be overwhelmed, yeah, but they will have space in their heart to listen to you. They will take the time to be with you, and they will offer you their stability and their non-fear, their understanding. Yeah. If this, they too are human, they also have been through things and they know. Someone that is of that kind of wisdom and understanding may also reflect things to you. They're not fooled by you playing small. They look straight to the heart of your aspiration. They see the light in your eye. They know that maybe you're caught now, but you're not, that's not all of you who you are. So that they can be challenging. They can challenge us to reconnect with a deeper aspiration. Not in the way of judgment or making you feel like you've not been doing well, but just reminding you of your capacity, your potential. And we feel a spirit of renewal. We feel we can acknowledge, put down, begin anew with ourselves in that spirit. And we can let go of some of the tension and the things that we've been holding for a long time. We may cry or just feel with the out-breath a release. Touching the earth we're reminded also that Mother Earth is that Buddha, is that friend. She can receive this suffering, and she can help us to transform it. We can entrust our suffering, we can entrust this feeling of being stuck to her. We may not know the answers. We may not see the light at the end of the tunnel. But somehow we trust. And sometimes we can be surprised. I remember, I think year 2012, it was Earth Day. I can't remember what's the, was it the 12th of the 12th? I can't remember the date. It was June, was it? Okay. So it could be today, Earth Day. It can be any day. But there was this particular day that we said, this is Earth Day. And so I remember being on the walking meditation, and it was, it must have been June because it was nice weather. And we were out by the Buddhas, the Buddha statues. And, you know, I'm a bit awkward with this tree hugging thing. I feel like, that's what hippies do, right? And I was born in the 60s, but I think, that's a bit strange, So maybe it's also because I'm English. I'm not like, I get a bit self-conscious. So I waited till everybody had walked off, and then I didn't hug a tree. I hugged Mother Earth. I lay down and I put my arms out to hug Mother Earth. And the surprise was I felt a hug back. Sometimes we get these moments, you could call them moments of grace, where you can't explain it, you can't prove it, but you felt it. Something happened. It was one of those moments. So we may feel like, as Shakespeare described through the voice of Hamlet, that this earth is a sterile promontory. It means, I saw the translator confused there. Sorry. It means there's nothing much going on. It's pretty inert, nothing. But actually the earth is very alive. And since we come from Mother Earth, since our consciousness comes from Mother Earth, how can we truly say we know that it's just a lot of material, mud and inert, inanimate stuff? If we say like that, we limit ourselves, we limit our availability to reality. Reality is more wonderful than we can imagine. To be open to the miracle of life is a practice. Letting go of our perceptions and our limited way of thinking is a way to open up to reality as it is, in the here and the now, in the present moment. That's why coming back to the present moment is so important, because it's where life is happening. And in the present moment we also are in touch with the store of everything that has happened on this planet, so we can say we're in touch with the past. We're in touch with that aspiration, which is very alive in us when we are free. And that aspiration, you could say it belongs to the future, and yet it's something very alive we find in us in the present moment. So the present moment contains all the past and the future, but it is not something we can pin down by a measurement of now, by a clock. It's about being alive to reality which is unknowable by logic. It has to be experienced, felt by this simple opportunity we have. By being human, we can touch the miracle of life, not just of ourself, of this body which is so impermanent, but of all life, life without boundaries. And this earth, and also this earth was born from the cosmos, so we get in touch with this vast experience. It's available to us. Letting go of how we're limiting ourselves to touch that is a practice. So when we touch the earth, it's not an act of devotion. We may bring to mind a particular inspiration, we may touch an aspiration, and we feel, but when we connect with the earth, the body and the mind, you see, are not two. So it's not just about up here. So somehow connecting with the earth, with our body, also really helps this experience. Somehow the body knows, has this wisdom, knows what this action is to connect with the earth, to come down, to humble ourselves. But actually what we are doing is re-experiencing connection. Ultimately we are here to wake up from the delusion that we are a separate self. And so we get this feeling of connection, like the connection to a wise friend that is there for us, and also connection to this mystery. And yet something very, I don't want to say concrete, I want to say very earthy. Something very real. Yeah, something we can touch, we can feel, we can experience. And the heart knows. And we feel that connection, and we feel we are witnessed in our human experience. We're witnessed in our pain. We feel heard. We feel, I am understood. And that is a great relief that can bring healing. We feel supported. We can let go, we can entrust ourselves to that bigger reality, to that knowing that we're part of something much bigger. It gives us more power, more non-fear. Yes, we are only human. Yes, we are fragile, impermanent, and yet we can connect with something much more than that. I have a sound of the bell. As well as the practice of hugging the earth, of touching the earth, of walking meditation, there is also the practice of circle sharing, which we've already experienced yesterday. And it's something similar, this feeling we can be witnessed, we can trust our fellow man and woman. We can find each other as spiritual friends with those qualities, embodying those qualities that we need from a friend. The stability, the compassion, the understanding. It is there. When we are together, we find it. Lots of experience together, collective experience. And we don't need a teacher among us. Maybe somebody who knows how to invite the bell. But together we hold the space for each other. And when one person's emotion, one person's difficulty is arising, together we are there for that person. At the same time we are there for ourselves. We are with our mindful breathing, connected in with our body, feeling stable in our body is the most effective way to listen deeply. We heard about this practicing listening deeply. And of course we put down our devices. We turn off our phones, not just the external ones, but also inside the little bleep notifications that tell us, oh, I must remember this, I must do that. And we put that aside completely for that hour and a half when we are doing the circle sharing, to really offer each other our true presence and 100%, I'm here for you. I'm really here for you. And we don't even know each other. And it's amazing because we find we do know each other in that space. We find there is, wow, yeah, I really feel a heart connection listening to you. You're sharing from your heart, and I resonate with that. I feel it. And that kind of connection is quite rare. I mean, even with the people we say we love, that we spend and devote our life with, maybe our partners, maybe our blood family, how often do we have that quality of presence for each other, really putting down everything and being there for each other in that way and listening without reacting, without judging. And of course maybe it's easier when we don't know each other. Because when we know each other, first of all we've already formulated quite a few ideas about each other based on some experience of. We have our judgments, and that's natural. And we may have even acquired some hurt feelings, some disappointments in connection with that person. So it's more difficult to just put everything down and just be there for each other. Not always true, but sometimes we recognize that. That can also be with our colleagues, our fellow teachers. How wonderful if teachers in a school can come together and offer each other that kind of presence. But maybe there is also a need for what we call beginning a new practice between individuals that do know each other, do work together, do spend time together, to pay attention to that relationship, to say something about that, to speak about the elephant in the room, or maybe if the elephant is too scary, not to speak about it right away. But first, get yourself at least in the place where you can smile to that person and find in your heart truly your appreciation for that person, and be able to speak that and let them know, I value you, I value you in my life, I appreciate this. Not just something small. That can be nice, you share something small, you offered me a cookie this morning, okay. You opened the door for me, yeah. Concrete things, little things that people do, they are important too, of course. Of course it's important to recognize and say thank you. But at a deeper level to really see if you can touch your appreciation for that person's presence, and that they are somehow you found yourselves together in this life. And you may say, I didn't choose, or I chose wrong. But somehow you're there together. And accepting that, find something you can appreciate. Maybe they're also helping you see something important in yourself. Maybe they are touching something which connects with a suffering that's not really belonging to this present relationship, but it belongs to something further back. And then by doing that, you actually have a chance to take care of that with the practice. So you can be even grateful for them touching suffering in you. But also see their light, see the light in their eyes, see their aspiration. Even if they're not seeing it, you must know that it's there somewhere. Yeah, their kindness is there, maybe behind some stuff. We have a sutra called The 5 Ways of Putting an End to Anger, which invites us to do this practice of seeing beyond the superficial what's being presented. Yeah. So somebody may be speaking harshly, but you look somewhere else. You say, yeah, but I see this other side to them. So paying attention to what is also good. It doesn't mean that's not happening. It doesn't mean that at some point that needs to be addressed. But we also learn to see a bigger picture, to look more deeply, get a better perspective, take a step back from that difficult part and see some space around it. Give that person the benefit of the doubt. Give that person the benefit of, maybe I don't know everything there is to know about this person. I don't know their causes and conditions of why they're showing up like this right now. You know, when we truly get to see the causes and conditions for what is going on in somebody, we can get this understanding. You say, oh, I get it. With those causes and conditions, I also would behave like that. I would think like that. I would speak like that. So then forgiveness becomes a natural fruit of this understanding. And that also applies to ourselves when we get that level of understanding about ourselves. We can forgive ourselves. Not as an act of, I forgive myself, but simply as a fruit of, I see it, I see why. And it gives us agency, it gives us, now I see what I can do to go in another direction, and it can reconnect us with our aspiration. When we see, yeah, I know that I'm suffering, I know somehow I've gone wrong, I'm in this place, and we look and say, oh, I can understand how that's happened, and now I can choose to go this way. You know, the numbers that of the retreatants, we divide into the circle sharing families, and we have this cute thing where we come up with a name for each family. We don't just say family 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We want to give a name, yeah. And in this case, there were 7 families. So, the 7 factors of awakening, yeah. Because we have so many things that relate to numbers in Buddhist teachings that it's easy to come up, you know. If it was 6 families, you'd be the 6 parameters, or if I'm trying to think. 9, I don't know, I was thinking 9 would be a difficult one. But 7 was easy, 7 factors of awakening. And the 7 factors of awakening: mindfulness, investigation, energy, joy, ease or relaxation, peacefulness. Then there is concentration, and finally letting go. Letting go is the sort of cream of the practices. It's like the final bit. I get to let go. And yet, because if you're wondering why letting go is so important for enlightenment, for awakening, well, I've already shared a bit about letting go of these perceptions that limit us to reality as it is. So it is said that the two obstacles for nirvana, for touching nirvana in this life, are our wrong perceptions and our afflictions, namely those kind of habit energies that we have which don't serve us well, and more basic, we could say, the afflictions that are part and parcel of being human. They come from our need to survive, evolutionary. They are fear, which is very, can talk about original fear when we're born, like we need to survive. Where is my mother? Original desire, I need connection, I need to be, this desire for being held, being fed, being, nurtured. And then there is anger. Also, evolutionary, anger is something very natural that arises in us. It gives us energy to fight if we need to fight. And yet, we know that these kind of primal energies are also like fire. They're quite dangerous also. So they're part of life energy, but somehow, if we can sublimate, if we can bring that energy back into just connection with life energy, there are usually much wiser ways to use our energy than expressing anger or acting out of fear. Acting out of non-fear is much more powerful and beautiful. It is said in Buddhism that the greatest gift we can offer one another is our non-fear. So with our children, especially in today's day, when we cannot shield the younger generation anymore from the reality of the world's situation with, for instance, climate change and the loss of habitat for wild life, the pollution of the planet. The children, they know, and they touch our fear also, and maybe our despair. And they have to make sense of that, and it gets in them. So we have to work on our, recognize our own states, our own fears, and find a way to come to a place of non-fear and reconnect with our love, including our love for Mother Earth and our love for ourselves, and then that will be transmitted to the children, to the young generations. We say we teach what we are. It's not that we teach so much the curriculum, and of course it's wonderful to give, and can be fun to teach physics or to teach architecture or the history of art or these things. It can be really interesting subjects, giving young people skills and things. But the biggest thing we teach is actually energetically, like what we are. There was a sharing in a Dharma sharing, and it's not I'm not going to say the name because we know we're not allowed to. But it was a lovely sharing about how working with toddlers, the very, very young, you immediately get reflected how you are, because they reflect your emotion right away to you. So if you're agitated, the toddlers are agitated. If you're peaceful, they connect with that peaceful energy. But that also goes to, it's maybe less obvious, but it also is true in the later years. As well as our anxiety and about what's going on in the world, we also get tired, just plain old tired. We just get burned out feelings, and even we are in touch with our aspiration. Even we are very happy to be teachers. Even we know what a privilege it is, and we know that teaching is its own reward. Just to be with the children and to be with the young people. And we would never give that up. And yet, it seems like there's just so much to do, and maybe too much on the administration side and filling out forms and dealing with practical things. And when we experience this kind of burnout, we realize, well, this is not sustainable. If I want to continue, I'm going to have to find another way. And sooner or later, we have to acknowledge our limitation and realize that we need to take care of ourselves. We need, if we're going to transmit happiness and stability and non-fear and these wonderful things, including our joy, we have to have it. We have to have the joy. We have to have these qualities. So sooner or later we realize we need to also include ourselves in our aspiration, in our work. Yeah. How wonderful if we can integrate taking care of ourselves with our classroom. So the classroom becomes the place where we rest, we relax, we touch peace. And somebody shared how having a bell in the classroom does that for them. Yeah? It allows them to really have that moment where they also are touching peace, and they create the collective energy of peace in the classroom. So even you acknowledge, I'm not embodying the best practice at the moment, but if the classroom can become a place of practice, you get to touch it there and get support by everybody else practicing. Yeah. In the Wake Up Schools initiative, I was asked in this talk to share something about something called the 3 pillars. And I had to ask, even though I was one of the original monastics involved with the Wake Up Schools, I said, what's the 3 pillars again? And I was told to look it up on the website. And I did. I couldn't find it. Has anybody seen it? But anyway, Tai Phap Jung told me, it's very simple. It's embodiment, service, and community. Is that right, Richard? I got it. Okay. Because the 3 pillars is a way of expressing the kind of core of this Wake Up Schools spirit, if you like. What is this about? What are we offering that is special? So the embodiment part is just what I was saying before. If we have peace, we can offer peace. If we have the happiness, we can offer it. So we have taking care of ourselves, respecting our limitations. Yeah. How, if we do that, we also teach that. We don't want to just bring up another generation of people that burn out. So we need to, maybe we have to put ourselves back in the classroom of learning how to take care of ourselves. It's maybe why you come to Plum Village a bit. But even the monastics are not always that good at it. We also have to learn to do that. But here, as you're learning, the culture is where taking care of ourselves is something that is respected, something that is encouraged. Yeah. It doesn't mean we do nothing. It turns out that when we take care of ourselves, we get back the original aspiration. We get back the energy to serve. Yeah. So embodiment is for our joy. It's for our respecting ourselves. The embodiment of the practice. And the 5 mindfulness trainings, they offer us some clear, I'll use that word again, concrete expression of how that can look for us. They provide a very detailed roadmap for embodying the practice. They are a wise friend. They are non-judgmental. This 5 mindfulness trainings we're going to hear about. Is it this evening? Yeah. Sister Downyam is going to be facilitating and you'll hear some sharings about practicing the 5 mindfulness trainings. And we know that when we've touched this practice, that we get a sense of gratitude. We have a feeling of, wow, that really helped me. Maybe we got some real healing from practicing. We maybe touched our connection to our parents, because there's so much in the teaching about seeing where we come from. We get a kind of therapy as well, you know. There's different forms of psychotherapy, and in a way Plum Village includes some psychotherapy, so you maybe get that kind of healing, but also this spiritual aspect of touching this kind of mystery and getting reconnected to the miracle of life. And the simplicity of the practice, the kind of common sense of it all, touches us very deeply, and we bring it into the heart of our life, and we have this sense of gratitude and wanting to offer, of course. I remember when I first heard a tape of Thich Nhat Hanh Thai, my teacher. I first heard this cassette tape, you know, the old cassette tapes. I played it in my Fiat Uno on my way to work in Scotland, and I was bowled over by this teacher, this sort of wise energy coming at me, yeah, in the form of this Vietnamese monk. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, and out of sheer joy and gratitude for hearing these wise, I thought everybody will want to hear this. So I made lots of copies and I sent them out to my friends, and they all thought I'd gone completely mad. Yeah. I don't think they listened like I listened to the tape. If they had, they might have understood, but they just thought, I can't. You know, one friend said, "We've lost Ben to Buddhism." So sometimes we get over enthusiastic, Yeah, and we want to share, yeah. And again, we have to remind ourselves, no, it's like, I have to be patient, but I have that spirit of wanting to offer. And mostly I offer just by how I am in that relationship, you know. My mother also didn't like very much the idea of me becoming a monk, but she had to admit I'd become a bit less angry. And so she appreciated that. Things like that touch people when we really have some transformation, yeah? It touches people and they get inspired. When we can really listen to someone, yeah, they really appreciate that. And it doesn't have to have the label Buddhism or any religion or thing like that. It's just human that we can do that. We're realizing actually our greater human potential. So with this spirit of gratitude, we want to offer, we want to serve. And that is the service part of the second of the three pillars, this service, you know, comes from that spirit of gratitude. We don't turn our service into a kind of a fancy technique or a kind of product to sell. It doesn't mean, you know, it's not about livelihood or not having a livelihood. The point is the spirit of gratitude is behind it, of wanting. You know, when you're in the role of teacher and you find the practice and you think to yourself, I know when the children come to Plum Village, you just think to yourself, gosh, if I was able to be in Plum Village when I was that age, that would have been so cool. You know, I would have had touched something so lovely. And I wish that for these young children, yeah. When you're able to share with a child how to take care of maybe they have insomnia, and you're able to teach them how to take care of their emotions and their fear, and or take care of their anger. You know, you use Anne's Anger book, these wonderful teachings, and many creative ways in which they've been expressed. And as teachers, we get to be creative in how we share. And you know that you're giving the children something so valuable. I know it, yeah. Mostly we offer our love, but we also offer these ways to help. So out of that spirit. And then the third pillar is community. And as I've already shared, you know, the way we come together now, supporting each other, the way the classroom can be a place of practice where even the children are supporting us as they do the practice with us, listening to the bell with us, and they benefit so much. The classroom becomes our community. But how much more wonderful if the parents also practice. We have a sangha for the parents. They also can benefit. You know, there's nothing more disheartening than having. It happened once. I remember we had teenagers in Deer Park when I lived in Deer Park Monastery, and they touched this beautiful experience in their week, and then the parents would come at the end of the week, and they would. We had a kind of sharing, and the parent just expressed from this place of criticism of the child, and it was, you just watched the whole thing just like, oh no, everything we built with that child, that giving them this sense of confidence, and then so the parents also have to practice, is what I'm trying to say. And they benefit and they touch it. So for a school, we should think of community as teachers, staff, parents, and of course the children. And they can all practice together, one mindfulness day for the school, or have individual, the Sangha of the, and even the children have their own mindfulness club. It can be, so it can be and can be part of the spirit of the school. To have meditation, to have mindfulness. There are some of us really with that vision, a mindful school, and some of us here I know. And you're doing it, but it's not always easy. You're also having some burnout, creating the most beautiful school. So we need so much community to support each other in that beautiful work. And hopefully Plum Village offers something of that support. I know there was even just the calligraphy, Happy Teachers Change the World, is already, I know, a support for teachers because they feel recognized, that they are important in this world and in what we're doing in society. And because that was reported to me by a French teacher who knew nothing about Plum Village, but she saw this poster, Happy Teachers Change the World, and she tried to find out who put that poster up, and then she found out, and then she expressed that. So even just that simple support of just saying, hey, I know you're there, and your practice, your happiness is important. And I want you to know you're valued, and I want to support you. And I appreciate your aspiration to serve. So making community, building community is not always easy, but what an amazing support it can be for us, and we see it being support for so many people. Tai has said that building community, building Sangha, as we call it, is perhaps the most noble task of our time. The other thing that I was suggested that would be good to share this morning, I realize I'm running a little bit late to be able to do this, but there's one practice that, one thing that we share with children, and it's also, of course, for ourselves, which is how to take care of emotions. Yeah. And more than that, how to cultivate the mind. So I'm going to go to the board. Many of you will have seen this diagram. I think we know the talk's in English already, right? Okay. All good teachings have a circle. All Buddhist teachings, there's always a circle somewhere. So, but this circle actually represents the individual, you, me, yeah. And there is this, it represents, it's a teaching that actually comes from the manifestation only school, which Tai did a huge amount of study and research into and developed. And it's talked about in the book Understanding the Mind. A little bit complex, but brought down to this very simple diagram, we can immediately get a very lovely experience of the deep teaching of Buddhism, but very applicable, and children love this. Teachers love it because it's so easy, it's kind of visual, so I offer it here. So this represents us, and this is our consciousness. So in this manifestation only teaching, there are 8 levels of consciousness, and the 5 of them actually are the sense consciousnesses. So that's easy, the 5 senses. So that would be eyes, ear, nose, tongue, body, touch. So these give rise to the experience of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. And this is our mind. C for consciousness, our mind consciousness. Sometimes we call this the living room. This is where we live. What's going on right now in our living room, in our present experience? What are we experiencing? We can, when we come back to ourselves, we recognize what is going on right now in the living room. What is there? Can we? And it's not always apparent. We may be sort of going around on automatic pilot. So to stop, the practice of stopping is to come back and just check out what is actually going on in the living room. Yeah. Sometimes it's very obvious, we're angry. Sometimes we've got a strong emotion and it's very obvious what's going on. That's what's up for us. Other times it's a bit more subtle, and we see there's a vague feeling of anxiety when we touch in. Yeah. Or a vague feeling of sadness or loneliness. And with that loneliness, we have been unwittingly trying to take care of it with checking our emails, surfing the net. We've been phoning a friend. We've been eating chocolate. There's many ways to take care of that feeling, but when we come back to ourselves and recognize, it says, actually the chocolate's not quite doing it. It sort of provides a temporary thing. And when we have more, but we also know that with stronger emotions we maybe feel overwhelmed. We knowingly take medication for it. Antidepressants, alcohol, which is actually a depressant. We do things to squash, have an embargo. I don't want to deal with this. I can't deal with this. It's too much, or it's just slightly unpleasant and I haven't got time for it. Whatever on the spectrum of it is, we would rather not deal with it. We would rather avoid that. And this would type up Lou was sharing yesterday about the art of suffering. In other words, the art of going to the root, going to what is actually there and doing something to take care, right? So this diagram just gives us a little representation of what may be going on that we're often avoiding. It's also, so there's another level, which is the store consciousness. The store consciousness. So when the eye sees Fred here, this is actually tomorrow. I'm going to let you into a secret. We're going to watch. We're going to have a skit based on Lord of the Rings. Yeah. Does anybody know Lord of the Rings? Oh, just a few of you. So there's this character called Frodo. Yeah. So when the eye sees, I was saying Fred, but I'll call Frodo. Okay. We've actually, I'll tell you a secret, okay, don't tell you. We've given him the name FOMO, just for fun. He's called FOMO. That's a joke, because FOMO stands for fear of missing out, which is a big mental formation these days, created by Facebook. But anyway, cross that out. So just let's stick with Frodo. We see Frodo through the eye, and we have this image of Frodo, and he brings up this feeling of joy. Yeah, because he's a hobbit. He's really good. He's very sweet. And we like hobbits. And then the next minute we see an elf. And also, this one touches a seed of, what should we say? Respect, yeah. You know, like as in, this guy's a dude, you know, he knows how to. So we have a feeling of like, wow, this guy's cool, you know. We like this guy. And then the next one, this is a bit spontaneous, so I don't know. But, so the next one, how to do I don't know, this is an orc, right? So we see an orc through the eye. So all of these, and this brings up what does it bring up? If you're a fear, I'm sorry if you've never seen Lord of the Rings. This will be really strange. So an orc is like, ugly. Smell as well, yeah. So you could smell the orc, yeah. Nasty. Okay, so not such pleasant feelings, maybe even anger. I mean, so in our skit we're going to transform the orc into a nice, because we're non-dualistic, you know, we don't. So, but you can see, just with some fun here, you can do it many ways with the children, this kind of teaching. You get to see that we get a stimulation from outside. We maybe, somebody says something or we see somebody, and it can touch something which was not in the living room before, and suddenly, because it was in the store consciousness, in the form of a seed. So this is the way we talk about it. We say there's a seed of joy, right? And when we see Frodo, there's the seed of joy. I'm mixing it up. Okay, there it goes. There's the line. Going to the seed of joy here. There was the potential in our store. And because we've seen Frodo, joy comes into the living room and we experience joy. We weren't feeling joy. We were down in the dumps. And then we see Frodo, joy. Okay? So we can say it was a seed waiting to manifest. And the store consciousness contains all the seeds that you can imagine of the human experience and beyond. Okay? And the store consciousness, which contains all the seed, is individual to us and collective. So it also belongs to, connects with other people's store consciousness and beyond just the human store. It connects with all life. And so we can think of Mother Earth, the crust of Mother Earth and all the life that arises as being somehow symbolic of, and kind of in realistically an expression of store consciousness. And yet here we are, this little circle, our individual experience, touching our store consciousness just by seeing Frodo. You know, and maybe we hear something from somebody and they say something nice to us. Say, you know, they say, okay. Or they say, you look terrible today. And you say, yeah, I think you meant that well, but actually it didn't feel so good, you know. So depending on how we interpret what somebody may be saying something meaning well, but the way we interpret it, based on a whole dynamic going on down here of previous experiences, what comes up in the living room depends very much on that pre-experience, right? Of what and how we choose to interpret things, or how we've interpreted things in the past, is kind of complex. But basically something comes up, maybe a good feeling or a bad feeling. We talk about pleasant feelings and unpleasant feelings. And there's one more category. Neutral. You know, so I see Catherine, no, neutral feeling. Because I don't know her that well. Yeah. But then the next day, you know, I've met her and we've had a conversation, and the next time I see her, because I know more, I've investigated Catherine, I have a pleasant feeling when I see her, because we had a good conversation, that kind of thing. So we can identify feelings of pleasant feelings, unpleasant, neutral feelings. These feelings can also be bodily feelings. Yeah? So if we get certain kind of touch, it may make us feel good. Maybe a massage. Oh, that brings another category. Something called mixed feelings. You know, somebody gives you a really good massage, and you're really stiff, and you go, "Oof!" It's kind of painful, but it feels good because you get some release. Yeah? So that would be like a mixed feeling, physical feeling, and then there's also the mental feelings. So this is the basic diagram to say we have the store consciousness containing all the experience, all the potentialities of both emotions, states of mind, and also we can say, if we think of this store consciousness like the earth, it's also physical manifestations. But let's stick to imagining we're just offering this to children, and for just in terms of taking care of emotions, then we just stay simple and we talk about, okay, so you saw Frodo, you felt joy, you saw the orc, you felt anger. Maybe the first thing to do with the anger is not focus on the orc. Maybe you can't do much about the orc's behavior at this point. But you focus on you just say, okay, I've got some anger coming up. This is an unpleasant feeling. If I express my anger, I might do some damage. We know how that goes. If I suppress my anger, I'm going to store up, if I stuff it back in the store, I don't do anything with it except to suppress it. I know that it's just going to come up just the same the next time, or it's going to come up worse. And it's a temporary solution. And we may even, by stuffing our anger down, get depressed. They say depression is anger. Sometimes it's anger turned in on ourselves. We can do ourselves physical damage by suppressing emotions. So is there another way? Is there a middle way? Is there apart from expressing and suppressing, is there a way to take care? Prends soin, right, in French? How to take care of the emotion. So we have the anger here, maybe very hot, very spiky. And there's a special seed, and we call this seed the seed of mindfulness. There's other very positive seeds we could choose to bring up, but let's take the seed of mindfulness. We invite the seed of mindfulness to come up into our living room. How do we do that? By the practice, walking meditation, breathing, just coming back to ourselves. We maybe don't focus on the anger right away. If we already have mindfulness available to us, if we've been practicing before the anger arose, then very easy to bring up this energy. And this energy of mindfulness has the ability, the capacity to take care, to embrace, to be with what is there. That is, it has the ability to be a friend to what is there, to be present there, and not to be frightened by the anger and run away, not to be judgmental towards the anger and criticize the anger, but to simply say, okay, I recognize you, and you sure have a good reason to be there, because all of the propaganda told me orcs are very bad people. And therefore, I have this mental formation about this orc, and it makes me angry. I was told orcs do bad things, so now I believe that. And so I'm angry. But forgetting about the story, just taking care of the anger as an energy is the first thing to do. Just to recognize this anger feels like this in me, in my body. And just with the mindfulness of breathing and coming back to the body, I'm taking care of the kind of emotional disturbance in my body. And just by being there, not necessarily thinking about the story or understanding the roots of the anger, I calm my body. But in taking care of this way, there's something else that happens. Because mindfulness also has this function of the second of the factors of awakening, which is investigation. It has, we don't have to, it's not a thinking process. It's not something we have to do. We just stay aware, stay present with what is there, and there will be an insight that comes to us about what is really going on. We will get an insight that will help us both deal with what is going on for us and also our perception, and to see maybe if this person, maybe a colleague at work, has caused us to be angry, maybe in a family, instead of working out a way to prove to them how wrong they are and how right you are, instead of wanting to punish that person, or instead of wanting to hide away from that person, you get the insight that allows you to go to that person with freshness, with respect, and have a communication that will really help the relationship move on. And just as importantly, when even you don't do anything with that person, maybe it's too difficult for now, but somehow by just taking care of the emotion in this way, when it goes back into the form of a seed in the store consciousness, it's already modified. It's a mindfulness modified seed. Okay? Not a genetically modified seed, a mindfully modified seed. So you've touched it with your mindfulness, with your compassion, which is also to say your compassion, because you embraced, you were not, as I was describing, this non-judgmental, accepting, non-fear energy. And when it goes back down, it's somehow different. Next time it comes up, it says, hi, I'm that anger again, but yeah, I'm more manageable now, you know what I'm about. And maybe it even comes with a little tag, yeah, please take care of me like you did last time, it was really great, you know. Because actually the anger is an alarm bell to say, I need attention. Yeah, that's really what anger is saying. Like, please pay attention, something's going on, I need help. It's a kind of cry for help, and the kind of help we need is not to punish, not to run away, not to suppress, but to bring this compassionate mindfulness energy to it, which is the seed, which is also part of our natural human inheritance. We have this as a resource. It's innate in us. We don't have to buy it from a supermarket or go to some special website. It's something that we can touch in the most simple ways, just simply paying attention to the present moment, cultivating this capacity to stay present as we do, is to cultivate this seed of mindfulness. But not mindfulness alone. Mindfulness with these other seeds that we can talk about, that we've talked about today already. Compassion, understanding, non-fear, calm, peacefulness. So these are different facets of this energy of love, this energy of being aware and awake, being aligned with life, not as this separate individual facing off the universe, but being aligned in our nature of interbeing, in our recognition that I'm part of something much bigger, that everything that is, whether it's manifesting in me or outside in the form of this person, it has its causes and conditions, and we are in this together, and we are interrelated, and it allows us to drop a lot of the fear of separate and the separate feeling of being separate from, and allows us to relate and recognize our relationship in such a, and brings back that desire to take care of what is in us and around us. So this model is often just very, very helpful as a teaching tool, and you're free to use it. It's not trademarked. You can use it in your classroom to talk about taking care of emotions, for instance, and also we talk about the mind, consciousness, as the gardener, cultivating the mind of love. So as well as, because if we want mindfulness to be there to take care of the emotions when they arise, it's so important, and all of these other qualities, we want them there. The non-discrimination, inclusive, acceptance, quality, the non-fear, all of these. We want to have been cultivating them in advance, right? So the store consciousness is the field with all the seeds, and we have this term, we selectively water the seeds in our daily life by our way of being, our way of thinking. And gradually we get a harvest of these good qualities. Just because you have anxiety and you think that defines me, I'm an anxious person, it doesn't mean, it doesn't have to stay fixed like that. You can cultivate non-anxiety, non-fear. And if you have a seed of, you're someone that's a very good listener, everybody says, oh, you're very good at listening. And so you become a little bit proud. Oh yeah, that's me, I'm a good listener. You also know that that is because you inherited some good fortune. Maybe somebody really listened to you when you were young. So you start to see where these seeds arise, so we don't get too proud of our strengths, and also we don't have to have a complex about our weakness, but in fact we get the ability to become a gardener and choose what we cultivate. Cultivate our compassion, cultivate our mindfulness, and take care of the seeds that maybe are causing destructive behaviors, and maybe behind some of our habit energy, hobbit energy. Okay, so that wasn't my joke, but it's not bad. It's not that bad. Yeah. Okay, we'll close here, and maybe 3 sounds of the bell. It's 11:15, and I believe we do have, even it's a little chilly, we have walking meditation on the schedule. So thank you for your kind attention.